Every vocation story is a unique story of God's calling, of God's love. And there's something special in each one and unique in each one. It's a gift of His merciful love. My story began already when I was very young. I already felt the call. I had two aunts who were nuns, and so I heard more often about vocation. They also encouraged me to think of it. My mother also prayed very often for vocations and hoped that I would become a sister at some time. One of my aunts, who I was especially attracted to, belonged to the Good Shepherds. So I had decided as a young child that I was going to join her community and be a missionary to Africa or India or something like that. And this enthusiasm, this living with the thought, stayed with me maybe until I was a young teenager and I started experiencing my first nieces and nephews. And then I thought, wow, it'd be kind of nice to have a family too. It'd be nice to be a mom and have children. And I love taking care of my nieces and nephews. So that thought also began to play a role. When I was 17, my Good Shepherd aunt wrote to me, reminding me of my youthful dreams of being a Good Shepherd missionary, and indicating that it probably would be time. I was in my junior year of high school. It probably would be a good time to start thinking about that again. Well, I read her letter carefully, and then I thought, well, let me think about this. And so I went to the shrine, and I thought, and I said, well, meanwhile, I had gotten to know Schoenstatt. I had met Father Kentenich. I had gotten to know what Schoenstatt is. And for me, Schoenstatt played a very important role already in my life by then. And so somehow it became very clear to me, if I'm going to become a sister, I'm not going to become a Good Shepherd sister. I'm going to become a Schoenstatt sister. But that's if I become a sister at all. No? So that part one was pretty clear to me. No? I won't become a Good Shepherd sister. I thought a little bit longer, and I thought about, well, it would sure be nice to have children of my own, to have a family. And then I thought, of course, if I don't have a family of my own, I could help a lot of kids too, just like the sisters took care of our camps and we worked with youth, and that would also be nice. I could be a spiritual mother to many children. And then somehow the thought came to me, it's actually not so much a thought about is it spiritual motherhood versus physical motherhood, but more, where can I serve Schoenstatt most? As I said before, I had met Father, and Schoenstatt really was already an important part of my life. So the question narrowed itself down. Where can I serve Schoenstatt most? As a mother belonging to a mother's group like my mother did, or as a Schoenstatt Sister of Mary who works exclusively for Schoenstatt. Of course, it didn't take long to realize that if I want to work for Schoenstatt, the best way is by giving myself to the Schoenstatt sisters, because that way my whole life is at the service of the Schoenstatt work. So I made up my mind. I'm going to become a Schoenstatt sister. And I made an appointment to tell Father about it. Notice, I was making the decision, and I wanted to tell Father. So I went to my appointment, and I shared with Father. I let him read the letter from my aunt, and then I told him, but now I've thought about it, and I really would like to be a Schoenstatt sister. And Father very calmly and kind of dryly said, it's nice that the child likes the Schoenstatt sisters, and then went on to a totally different topic, as if he hadn't even heard me, as if it didn't matter or wasn't important. And I was a little bit insecure. Did he understand what I said? Why isn't he reacting to it? But I was too shy to ask what it was, why he hadn't. So I left again, and I kept thinking about it. Do I really want to be one? Why is it? What is it? And after a few weeks, the longing just continued and continued. And I thought to myself, yeah, I really want to be a sister. So I wrote a long poem to the youth sister to tell her about my longing to be a Schoenstatt sister. And after that, then when I would go to Father, he began to take up the topic and to prepare me for my vocation. Thinking back to that, at that time I wondered, why did Father not react to what I had said? But as I think back, I know why. It goes back to Father's own desire to always respect the freedom of a person. I was very young, also very immature in many regards, and Father wanted first to see if that idea had come from me, or if I was only doing it to please, or if I was only doing it because the sisters wanted it, or whatever. So he waited, and obliged me, in a certain sense then, to continue thinking about it. Once he was sure that it was a real decision from my part, then Father did all he could to help me and to make it possible for me to fulfill that longing as soon as possible. And so it was that I could enter our community on the 3rd of July in 1965, just a few months before Father Kentenich returned via Rome to Schoenstatt. So I also, even though Father could not officiate at our reception, he could at some moment see me as a Sister of Mary, and that was a great joy for me too.